Hey guys, so I'm coming to you today with a quick video. I just had the impulse to do it on my way home from the library today because I was really excited about one of the books I got out. And actually both of them I'm really thrilled about. And I'm looking a little wilted because it's been really hot in our area for the past few days. And just even running around, it's like that kind of hot that you walk out, it's so humid. And you just are like, I need a shower, even if you just showered like an hour earlier. It's just gross. So I'm like, I don't even try. It's that summer. It's that kind of summer heat where you're like, I don't even care. I don't even care. The books that I am super stoked to read this summer, these are definitely TBR list worthy books for the months of June, which we're already in the middle of, July, and August. And two of them are from the library, so I'll probably be reading those first. And the other three I own. And one of them I've owned for a while, and I've just recently got the impulse to pick up again because I'm like, oh, you know, I actually really like that first book. I really want to finish the series. It's one of those where you finish the first book and you're like, yeah, I really liked that, but you want to read something else, and then a couple months later you're like, I want to know what happened next. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But anyway, I'll get to that one later. The first book I am talking about that inspired this video, I am so excited to read. Okay, it is The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd. And the reason why I am so stoked to pick this one up is because last month I read H.G. Wells' The Island of Dr. Moreau, and I loved it. And when I finished it, I was like, man, I wonder if I can find some good fan fiction on this. And lo and behold, I'm at the library looking through some books, and I'm reading the premise on this because the title and the cover intrigued me, and I'm like, sounds kind of familiar. And then I get to the bottom, and it's like, inspired by H.G. Wells' classic, The Island of Dr. Moreau. And I went, oh my gosh, ask and you shall receive. Hallelujah. So I am really thrilled to read this. I even kind of had a book crush on one of the characters that she ends up having like I'm assuming is a triangle with. So I'm like, God, I'm so excited to read this book. The next book I am excited to read this summer is another library book that I just picked up, and it is Shadow and Bone. It's the first of the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. And I'm not even going to lie, the biggest draw to this author is the fact that we share our first names and the same spelling. And it is very rare to find somebody who doesn't have the name Leigh, L-E-I-G-H, whether it's just their middle name or it's a double name like Leanne. Just plain Leigh is very rare. So when I see it, I'm like, sister, what are you doing? So whether it's a musician or an author, I'm like, I'm going to check out her stuff because us Leighs need to stick together, L-E-I-G-H Leighs. Not that I'm not hating on any L-E-Es out there, but L-E-I-G-H, just plain old L-E-I-G-H isn't really common. But anyway, it's also gotten a lot of good reviews, and it sounds kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm getting the vibe that it's like a fantasy Russia, which sounds really interesting to me because, you know, Russia's pretty cool. The next book I'm really excited to read is a nonfiction book that I purchased about a month ago. And I have a really weird fascination with, well, that's not weird, I bet a lot of people do, with prehistoric cave paintings. And this one is called The First Signs by Genevieve von Petzinger. And it's gotten some really good reviews so far. And it's pretty much about basic geometric symbols that we see every day now, and their origins within cave paintings and where they came from and what inspired them possibly. And it just sounds really interesting. So I'm definitely going to be picking this up. If you are interested in cave paintings, there's an excellent documentary called The Cave of Forgotten Dreams, I believe. This just came to me while I'm sitting here. And I saw it a couple of years ago, and it is wonderful. It is wonderful. So if this is something that interests you, I say look up that documentary, and I'll keep you up to date on what I think of this one. And I'm really excited to read it. The next book I'm really excited to read is just looks like a fun historical fiction. It is Mistress of My Fate, book 1 of the Confessions of Henrietta Lightfoot by Haley Rubenhold. And this is definitely one, too, that I saw the cover with that gorgeous fan, and I was like, ooh, it's a pretty book. And it was $1. It was one of my dollar store finds. So I can't not pass up this pretty of a hardcover for $1. From the looks of it, it's about a young woman in the 1700s, the 18th century England, who is the niece of a nobleman and who's expecting a fairly commonplace, dull life as a lady's companion to her more upper-class cousins. And I guess fate throws her a completely different path, and she ends up being able to kind of forge her own way, not without difficulty. So I'm really interested to read this. This just sounds like a lot of fun. It kind of gave me a little bit of a Vanity Fair vibe to it, just maybe with less like enterprising characters and deceit. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe there's more deceit than I'm thinking, but we'll see. I'm excited, and it's pretty. The last book that I'm really excited to read is what I was talking about earlier, how you start a series sometimes. I don't know if this happens to you guys, but you'll start a series and you'll read the first book and you'll really like it, but maybe it was really intense. Maybe you were excited about other books, but you were like, okay, I've got the other books in the series. I'll get to those eventually. And it takes a few months, sometimes, longer, to actually get to it. And I read Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. You already know I can't pronounce the name. And back in, I think it was in the winter time, sometime like February, maybe. And I really enjoyed it. It's a very intense book. Trigger warning, there is a very intense scene of abuse in it. So if that's something that bothers you, steer far and clear away from this book. But if it's not, it's a great book. It's a very, very good book. And it's the first in a series, and I have the first 3 books, which is like the official trilogy. And this is the next one, and it is Son of the Shadows. And I guess it's about, I'm getting the vibe, it's about like freedom fighters in Ireland too, who were fighting against English occupation during that time, during the Dark Ages fantasy time. And that's usually what her books revolve around. It's historical fiction and fantasy melded perfectly together. So that's something that you enjoy. She's your girl. Check her out. Those are the 5 books that are definitely hitting my TBR this summer. If you've read any of them or you have any added suggestions because something sparked your interest or made you think of something, I don't know. I gotta finish my coffee and I gotta go run and grab my daughter real quick, so at school. So I'm making this quick. Okay, I'm rambling now. Bye-bye.